Yeah, there's a book I draw from pretty extensively in Civilized to Death called A Paradise Built in Hell. It's about disaster sociology. It's really interesting about how people behave in disasters, natural disasters, wars, economic collapse. And Civilized to Death, this book, which I think, by the way, I've finished this week.
Nice. That's amazing.
I'm doing the final review before I send it to my editor. My editor may say, no, you're not done. Quite possible. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm done.
That's huge.
Anyway, there's only 4 years after the shirts went on sale. What was I going to say? It's a fascinating book because, the story that we're told is that, this Hobbesian vision of human nature and society is the only thing that keeps us from raping and pillaging and destroying each other. And what she found when she surveyed disaster sociology, and these people spent their entire lives studying how people actually behave, is the exact opposite. When disaster strikes, people help each other. Strangers, they help each other. And they look back on it as the most meaningful, beautiful time in their lives. Whether it's bombs falling on London or, whatever it is. And she quotes one of the founders of disaster sociology saying that after, his entire 40, 50 years, whatever, studying this, he said, the conclusion I've come to is that daily life is the disaster. Because that separates us from each other, makes us alone, makes us have lives devoid of meaning, devoid of purpose. It's not when the meteor strikes that's the disaster, it's before.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And it makes sense that, when something so horrifying is happening, human psychology would latch on to that beautiful moment in something so horrifying. But then again, what is life? Because we don't have those moments either up or down on a daily basis.
And that's why this book's called Civilized to Death, because I think civilization makes life a living hell. It makes life death because it removes meaning. It removes fluctuation. It removes, the sort of, it sanitizes, like air conditioning makes us fat, because our bodies want to respond to changes in temperature. It's good for us. Metabolism is constantly adjusting. So when you remove that adjustment and just smooth everything out, we just get unhealthy and unhappy and Civilized to Death. There it is. There's the plug for my book.
Why do you think that so many people, we have the world's wealth at our fingertips, and obviously, it goes back to people believing things that aren't true. Whether it's human psychology to just believe something that's repeated enough. I know that repetition is something that, your brain just automatically thinks that that's true if you just heard it said enough times. But just religion is just so mind-boggling to me because I think Islam is a little bit different. I'm not going to question why people in Gaza are Muslim. Obviously there's different circumstances for different religions and civilizations, but I just find it really fascinating how strong religion is still, considering how much we know. Have you studied that at all?
Not formally, but, I've got opinions on everything. The fact that I haven't studied it doesn't stop me from opining. Right. I think the appeal of religion is sort of refers to what I was just saying earlier. I think that secular life has drained the meaning out of our existence. So anything that adds meaning can be very compelling. And religion provides meaning for a lot of people. So does joining a street gang. So does being, crazily aligned with a sports team. Like grown men walking around with another man's name on their shirt. What is up with that? That's pretty weird. So I think we have a natural compulsion to align ourselves with something larger than ourselves, something that will persist after we're gone, gives us a sense of respite from mortality,
It's just so irritating to me that so many people live to die. It's the living to die. You're living, this isn't real, right? But you're living to basically end up in heaven or whatever you think that the afterlife is.
Yeah.
And so this is, you just take all of this for granted, even though this is fucking life, dude. This is what it is.
I think sexual frustration is important as well,
Yeah.
especially for men. For women, it is as well, but in different ways. But as far as what we're talking about here with empire and all that, there's a guy named James Prescott, who was a psychologist, who was very interested in what kind of correlation there was between sexual repression and violence in societies. So he went to the Anthropological Data Bank and looked at every society for which these factors had been measured. And he found that I think it was like 28 societies had all this data available, and all but one of them, there was highly significant correlation between how sexually repressed the society was and how violent it was. So this is a correlation, so we don't know what causes what, but if you are going, if you have a society that is expansionist, as an empire always is, and you need aggressive young men to go and kill people without asking too many questions, sexual repression is a very good way to generate those men. So I think it's interesting when you look at American society that's very repressed, even though it's like freedom. We think we're free, but it's actually, we're very
incredibly sexually repressed.
Yeah.
Right?
And, we've got our guys out shooting people all over the place. And then you go to where are they shooting people, or one of the main places, you got the fucking Taliban and, these guys who are incredibly sexually repressed. And the only way they're ever going to get laid is to go to heaven and get their virgins. Nuts.